These are the notes for 3-4, graphing linear equations in standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. That's just how the terms are arranged. We'll have our x term first, our y term second, and the constant last. To graph linear equations in standard form, we are going to graph the x-intercept and the y-intercept. To find the x-intercept, you substitute the value of y equals 0. And to find the y-intercept, you substitute the value of x equals 0. And you're then going to plot those 2 points and connect and extend. Let's give it a try. So first we'll start with the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, that's the x value when y equals 0. So we're going to substitute the value of y equals 0 into the equation and then solve for x. Whenever you multiply anything times 0, it's just 0. So that whole term is going to eliminate. And we're going to be left with just 3x equals 6. We then want to solve this by dividing both sides by 3. And we get x equals 2. So x equals 2, that's just the solution for x, but the x-intercept is at the point 2, 0. Okay, now we'll find the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is the y value when x equals 0. So we're going to do the same thing, except this time substitute the value of x equals 0 and solve for y. Again, 0 times anything is 0. So we're just going to solve the remaining one-step equation. To do so, we'll divide both sides by -2. And we get y equals -3. Now again, that's just the y value, but the actual y-intercept is at the coordinate point 0, -3. So those are our 2 points on our line. Those are our 2 intercepts. So from here, we want to connect and extend to be able to graph that linear equation in standard form. For number 2, our first step, we want to write this in standard form. So to do so, we need to subtract 12 from both sides so that we get it so it's ax plus by equals c. So standard form is 3x plus 4y equals -12. And we're going to do the same thing. We're first going to start by finding the x-intercept. And that's, we substitute the value of y equals 0. And solve what's left. So we have 3x equals -12. Divide both sides by 3. And we get x equals -4. So the x-intercept is at the point -4, 0. So now we'll do the same thing for the y-intercept, except this time we'll substitute the value of x equals 0. Because again, the y-intercept is the y value when x equals 0. Zero times anything is 0, so we're left with 4y equals -12. To solve, we'll divide both sides by positive 4, which gets us a y value of negative 3. So the y-intercept is the point 0, negative 3. So there's the y-intercept. The x-intercept is the point negative 4, 0. Now we're ready to graph the line, so we want to connect and extend. It's important that you extend with arrows in both directions because this graph continues in both directions. The graph doesn't only exist between those two endpoints. The solutions are every point that's on the line. So we're kind of using a shortcut here by just graphing the x-intercept and the y-intercept, but every point on this line is a solution to the linear equation. So we want to make sure we represent that with arrows in both directions, both in the increasing direction and in the decreasing direction. The other part about this section is we're going to graph horizontal and vertical lines. A horizontal line is always going to be in the form y equals a number. And it's going to pass through the point 0 and whatever that value is for y. And then a vertical line is going to be x equals. And again, it's going to pass through whatever that value is. So for x equals 3, find where x equals 3. And then we want to draw a vertical line that passes through that point. Because every point on that line has an x value of 3. Different y values, but the x value is 3 for each of those points on that line. For y equals negative 2, so first find where y equals negative 2 on the y-axis. And same thing, the y values are negative 2 all along this horizontal line. So we're going to graph a horizontal line through the point 0, negative 2. It's a little tricky because we're so used to thinking as the x-axis as the horizontal axis, but x equals is a vertical line because all of those points on that vertical line have an x value of 3. And also, we're also used to thinking as the y-axis as the vertical axis, but for y equals negative 2, all points on the horizontal line have a y value of negative 2. So first, just find where either x equals 3 or y equals negative 2, and then draw a line through that point. The rest of these notes are just examples, so I'm just going to kind of go through relatively quickly because you have those 2 examples on the first page. And this can help you whether you're checking your work or whether you just want a quick refresh. So first we want to find the x-intercept. Substitute the value of y equals 0. Solve the one-step equation. Substitute the value of x equals 0 for the y-intercept, and then solve the one-step equation. Plot your 2 intercepts, connect and extend. Number 6 is not in standard form. We want to split the x and the y terms and make sure you keep the sign that's attached to each term when you rewrite. So first we'll find the x-intercept. Which is the point -4, 0. Then we'll find the y-intercept. Which is the y value when x equals 0. We express each intercept as an ordered pair. Plot your 2 points, connect and extend. Seven, we want to first write this equation in standard form. So to do so, we're going to subtract 18. And again, first find the x-intercept, so substitute y equals 0. And solve the remaining one-step equation. Be careful with negatives here because obviously we're just having 2 points. So we really want to make sure that those 2 points that we graph are the correct 2 points. And for number 8, let's get rid of that fraction first. Standard form, we want to eliminate all fractions. So we want that leading coefficient, the coefficient of the x term, the coefficient of the y term, and that c value. We want them all to be integers, meaning no fractions or decimals. So we're going to multiply every term by 2. So now we're going to use this new equation, our equation in standard form, to find the x-intercept and then the y-intercept. Careful with negatives here, so we want to divide by -1 to solve. So we get an x value at -2, which is the coordinate point -2, 0. Find the y-intercept, substitute x equals 0, solve the one-step equation. Plot your 2 intercepts, connect and extend. These 2 were the examples that you worked on in class before our Jamboard. So I'll quickly just go over the x and y intercepts for these 2, and then we'll be done with the notes for 3-4. So first find the x-intercept, substitute y equals 0, solve for x. Find the y-intercept, substitute x equals 0, then solve for y. Plot your 2 points, connect and extend. B needs to be written in standard form, so we'll subtract 5 first. Find the x-intercept. So again, we're going to substitute y equals 0. So we're left with x equals 3. Then find the y-intercept by substituting x equals 0. Careful not to lose that negative sign in front of the y. We will need to divide by -1 to solve. So the y-intercept is at the point 0, -3. Plot your 2 points, connect and extend. That's it for the notes on 3-4, graphing linear equations in standard form. We found the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and we also graphed horizontal and vertical lines.